Hitman 3, the end of the World of Assassination trilogy of Hitman games, is about to be 1 year old. In fact, if you're watching this video the day it comes out, it is hitting its 1 year anniversary tomorrow. Take this with a grain of salt if you'd like, because I didn't play a lot of new games in 2021, but Hitman 3 was my game of the year last year, for sure. I played it so much, and I'm still playing it today, and so because of this, I would really like to talk about it. But more specifically, I want to talk about the final mission, Untouchable, taking place in the Carpathian Mountains. This is a level that has Agent 47 waking up in a room connected to various machines, and even as the player, you have no instructions as to what you're supposed to do, aside from the red dot in the far distance if you activate your instinct. There's only one door, and so you head on through. You might take out the scientist or the guard in the next room, and you might take their disguises because you don't know what you're in for at this point and you want to be able to blend in whatever the circumstance. But then with the help of a rusty crowbar, you open the door on your right, where both you and Agent 47 discover the truth at the same time. You're on a moving train. From here you realize that your target is somewhere in the front of the train and you're near the back, and your goal is now to work your way up train car to train car in order to get to him and take him out. And that's the core idea of this level. The player works their way up this straight line until they kill the target in a final confrontation, and because of exactly this reasoning, I've heard a lot of people complain about this level. But IO Interactive, the studio behind this trilogy, knew they might get this reaction, and even still, they made the level this way anyway. Here's a quote from a Polygon article written by Samit Sarkar.
IO was well aware that it was taking a risk with the epilogue. Large, the executive producer, told Polygon the story of the first time that a prototype of the train level was shown to the entire company, saying, "We got some emails after." But according to Large, project leads and the key stakeholders at IO had already considered the points that some members of the team were raising, and they'd also thought about the response they expected from the players. "I can't speak for anyone else on the team, but I'm really proud of the last level," Large said. "I read and hear and I can understand the criticism and the feedback. But, it did what I think we wanted and needed it to do."
With this in mind, I want to talk about Untouchable from the angle of looking for the good. I want to explore what this level adds to the series by being designed in this way. But of course, we can't really have a meaningful discussion about an ending without first talking about how we got there, nor can we talk about how something is different without first understanding the established norm. So let's get some context by taking a step back and looking at the rest of the trilogy. The experience of dropping into an average Hitman level is one of discovery. You're placed into some location like a fashion show in Paris or the American suburbs and given intel on a couple targets, and you're just meant to figure it out from there. You can use instinct to locate your targets, but that doesn't guarantee an easy way to get to them. For the most part, you're meant to keep your eyes and ears open as you look for key disguises to gain access to new areas, or to overhear tidbits of information that could lead you through more involved methods in getting this kill. Or you might be looking for the perfect stealth approach, where you could avoid disguises altogether while leaving no evidence behind. Following through on the sandbox style design that I've been describing so far, if I were to break down the key elements involved in these levels into just one single word, that word would be replayability. This form of replayability comes out of a sense of freedom in the player. This freedom to try new things, to experiment, to see what else the level might offer. So let's talk about that freedom. If you wanted to, you could take out just about every single target in this game using the same methods of something like a garrote or a sniper rifle. In each case, it just comes down to finding the right opportunity in order to get your target alone, or finding the right perch in order to get your shot. But as you're looking around the level, discovering what it has to offer, you're going to find new ways in which to take out your target that might be just specific to that level. The concept of replayability is so integral to the design of these games that the tutorial actually makes you play it twice, once in a fairly guided way and once where you're free to do it however you want. This is meant to put the players in the mindset that these levels are made to be played more than once to see what the levels have to offer. I could spend a long time talking about how this trilogy sets up and rewards this concept of replayability, but eventually we're going to lose the point of what this video is actually about. So instead, if you want to hear more on this exact subject, I recommend checking out GameMaker Toolkit's video on Hitman and the Art of Repetition. But for our purposes here, we just have to touch on replayability and the sandbox design as a core conceit of the levels of these games. This is the main thing that people bring up when they talk about their dislike of Untouchable, because it fails to conform to the same conceit. And while it is the level that is most opposed to that concept, it's not the first time that the games have taken away the player's freedom. So we have a trilogy that's built on replayability that comes out of player freedom, but what about the times when that freedom is stripped away? In a sense, the first playthrough of any mission is going to be limited to some extent because of the lack of options in the loadout menu. After you've played a mission a few times, you start to get more starting locations, you start to get options for smuggled items, you even start to unlock more things that you could be bringing into any level. But until you've played the level those times, you are being forced into this particular path, at least a particular path of how you start the level. Now, this doesn't change how you play in the level necessarily, but it does change your strategy when you begin it. This is true of every single level, and although it does limit some degree of freedom in the beginning, it is one of the ways it encourages replayability in order to get it all, in order to get that complete freedom. But personally, where this fact hit me the hardest is in Hokkaido, where it goes beyond the normal limits of the loadout and makes you wait until you reach level 20 in Mastery before you're able to bring in any concealed weapon or any gear at all. And because of this, the reward for complete freedom in the level isn't given to you until you've played quite a few times. While Hokkaido hit me the hardest in the way it affected my loadout, it was actually Colorado, the level right before it, that first takes away player choice within the level itself. The first time you play through Colorado, there's only one exit available to the player. The next time you go into it, a bunch more open up, but why is this first time stripping away your choice? What does this do? The forced exit in Colorado has Agent 47 entering a room where he finds a conspiracy-style board with names and pictures all connected to one another. Among the pictures, you find all the targets you've taken out so far in this game, and all put together under this umbrella of Providence. The reason the player needs to leave this way the first time they play through the level is because this is a moment that values story over player freedom. If they leave in any other way, we're not going to get this story beat. Hitman 2016 is an especially episodic game, which is evidenced even just by the fact that it was released a single level at a time. For the first 4 missions of the game, there's seemingly nothing to connect the various targets that Agent 47 goes after, aside from some information given in cutscenes that Agent 47 and Diana are not privy to, and the player might not be paying attention to. So this forced exit in Colorado becomes the first time that we could guarantee that everyone gets all of this is connected, and the first time we see the name Providence, who will go on to be the biggest antagonistic force in the series. And in terms of taking away freedom, that's really it for Hitman 2016. Just the 2 examples of Hokkaido and Colorado, and only really Colorado that affects anything within the level. So what about Hitman 2? Well, much like in Hitman 2016, it's really only the last 2 levels that are affected by any such interference. Whittleton Creek, while being a level that I love, is the most frustrating in this regard with its objective of collecting intel. The objective serves the same function as Colorado's forced exit, in that it's here to further the story and set up the game's final mission. But a problem comes in the fact that this side objective is always present and never optional, regardless of how many times you play the level. In Hitman 2's final level, Isle of Scale, there's also an additional objective, but this one's simply to not kill the Constant, a single NPC that's roaming the map. This does very little to affect much of anything while playing the level, because the NPC's never in danger except for by your own direct actions. It's pretty easy to just not kill somebody. And that's it. As far as the first 2 games of the trilogy are concerned, these 4 levels have been all the times that the games take away any degree of freedom, aside from if you want to count the unlockable loadout options. But by the time we get to the 3rd and final game of the trilogy, IO Interactive starts to play with this established formula more than ever. Hitman 3's missions feel like they were designed to bend the established formula to see how far it can go. We have Dartmoor, which, sure, could be played like any other level, but it's built around this murder mystery rather than actually killing the target. This goes so far as having multiple ways that the target could be killed by herself or by someone else if you just work through the mystery. You're a detective in this level, not a killer. Right after this is Berlin, a level where roles are reversed and Agent 47 becomes the target of 10 ICA agents. In this level, Instinct no longer tells the player who it is they are after, and they gotta figure it out themselves while being hunted by their own targets. The penultimate level, Mendoza, takes a page from Isle of Scale in having an NPC that the player is not allowed to kill. But unlike Isle of Scale, this time the NPC is Diana, making it her only level where she is present in person rather than just a voice, and actually able to help you in getting the kills. Now these are all playing with the established formula in a broad scale, but what about when we step back to our conversation about taking away player freedom? What probably sticks out the most is the starting locations. 5 out of 6 of the levels of Hitman 3 have what I'm going to call a prologue starting location for the first time the level is being played. These prologues vary in length and presentation, but the thing they all have in common is that they're an optional way to revert the level back to its original playthrough state. While this is a prominent feature in the game, I want to single out the way it is used in Berlin. As mentioned before, this is a level where Agent 47 is hunted by the ICA, and while on the first playthrough you can't see any of those ICA agents with Instinct, in subsequent playthroughs you can, and this prologue starting location ends up as a way to toggle that on and off. I've already complained about how Whittleton Creek has a story-based objective that's forced on the player every time they do it, but with this simple system of different starting locations, they're able to toggle that on and off and determine whether or not it's a first playthrough or if you want, in subsequent playthroughs, that first playthrough experience. On top of this, while only one level of the past 2 Hitman games have had a forced exit in a first playthrough, 3 of the 6 levels in Hitman 3 have forced exits. Potentially 4, but I don't really want to count Carpathian Mountains just because there's always only one exit. It's not a first playthrough thing. Just in these 2 simple features of prologue starting locations and forced exits, we're seeing how this game is putting much more of an emphasis on story than it did in the previous games. And story's something I've barely touched on up until this point, and that's because while there is one in the first 2 games, it's never really made the focus. The story exists primarily in cutscenes between levels, and not paying attention to them does very little to affect your enjoyment of either game. From my own experience, I played through all of Hitman 2 first and really didn't pay much attention to the story at all. Then I went back and played Hitman 1 and about the same thing. I just wanted to play through the levels. I wasn't very concerned as to why I was going to these places. But right before Hitman 3 came out, I did another playthrough, one where I was really paying attention to the story, really getting into those cutscenes and seeing where it was all going. But I'm really glad I did that story playthrough, because come Hitman 3, it really does matter. So let's get into what that story actually is. For this story breakdown, I'm going to do it the only way that really makes sense, game by game, trying to make it as simple as possible. Hitman 2016 starts with a prologue, where Agent 47 first joins the ICA and meets his handler, Diana. He has no memory of who he is or where he came from, but he's amazing at one thing: killing. Diana asks him how he feels about taking lives.
Tell me, what did it feel like, taking lives?
Random. Disordered.
Importantly, during this prologue, one of the heads of the ICA, Soders, is actually working against Agent 47, trying to make him fail the test and talk Diana out of wanting to work with him. But Agent 47 passes his test, and over the next few years, he and Diana become the best pair the ICA have. The first 4 missions of Hitman 2016 are set up like completely normal, random assignments, the kind that Agent 47 and Diana have been doing together for years at this point. But between the missions, we see that there's someone working behind the scenes, a shadow client, someone who seems to be using them for his own means. The shadow client's going after one group in particular, Providence, and at the same time Providence is realizing that they are the targets, so they assert their power over the ICA to get Diana and 47 to take him out. Meanwhile, Diana and 47 are starting to put together the bigger picture themselves. The pair are assigned to go to Colorado and take out the shadow client's militia, but while there, Diana has the idea to continue doing an investigation that the ICA won't know about and try to see what more is going on. And it's here that they learn of Providence and this big conspiracy, and that Soders is involved with them. We also learned that the Shadow Client knows 47 better than anyone. The two have some degree of a shared history. The final level has Agent 47 tasked with taking out Soders to rid the ICA of its Providence connection. When the mission is complete, Diana is met by a man known as the Constant. He's a member of Providence and knows exactly who her and 47 are, and he offers her a partnership. She accepts the offer, but only because he says he knows the truth of 47's history. The first 4 missions of Hitman 2 have Diana and Agent 47 playing both sides of Providence and the ICA as they track down Lucas Gray, aka the Shadow Client, and take out his militia all over the world. When Agent 47 follows Gray to a former correctional facility where they were experimented on as children and turned into the killing machines they are today, he decides to join up. Together they form a team of Agent 47, Lucas Gray, Diana, and Olivia, Gray's hacker friend, all to take down Providence once and for all. Because it turns out Providence are the ones responsible for them being experimented on. Agent 47 is injected with a serum that should cure his memory loss over time, and the first memory he gets back leads them to Janice, the original Constant. Killing Janice and tracking where Providence takes his bodies leads to an opportunity to kidnap Arthur Edwards, aka the current Constant, the only man who knows the identities of all the Providence partners. After Edwards is kidnapped, we learn that Agent 47 is actually the one who killed Diana's parents, the people who instilled in her the idea that no one is untouchable.
No one's untouchable.
No one's untouchable.
No one, Miss Burnwood, is untouchable.
In the 2 DLC missions, Agent 47 and Lucas Gray are tracking down the Providence partners by following their money trail before they could take on new identities. While they're out doing this, Arthur Edwards escapes from where they were holding him. And with all that build up for the Providence partners in the first 2 missions of Hitman 3, all 3 of them are killed. Taking out the Providence partners has been Lucas Gray's main purpose in life, and with this done, well, narratively, He's done. The ICA track him down and take him out. But he's not the only one that the ICA are after, because they know that 47 and Diana have been helping him out. When Agent 47 goes to meet up with Olivia, he instead finds a bunch of ICA agents who have been looking for them. He makes what might be the biggest choice of his life so far and gives himself a mission.
Keep your head down. I'll take care of this.
He's going to take out these agents to send a message. After this, 47 and Olivia regroup. The only way they're ever going to be safe from the ICA is to expose the entire agency. And so 47 decides they have to go to an ICA database and put all of its intel online. He takes on Diana's role so much that he's even using her line,
All right. I will leave you to prepare.
So in Chongqing, 47 has to take out 2 members of the ICA. Though these 2 people are working for the ICA, they seem just as corrupt and despicable as any other targets we've ever had, and well, we have no choice but to take them out because the only way to get into the database is for them to be dead. When Agent 47 gets into the database, he deletes every reference to himself and Diana, essentially deleting his entire history, his entire life as he's known it up until this point. Then he puts all the intel online, destroying the ICA once and for all. When Diana is spotted by a security system, 47 takes that as a signal for him to follow, because why would she be seen if she didn't want to be? 47 meets Diana in Mendoza, where she informs him that Arthur Edwards has taken over as the head of Providence and she has been offered the role of the Constant. But there's someone else up for the same role. She needs to get this, not because she wants to work for Providence, but because she could take them out from the inside if she's at this high level of a position. But it turns out Arthur Edwards has told Diana that 47 is the one who killed her parents. She betrays him, drugging him, giving him to Providence, and she's now one of the most powerful members. And with that, we're here. This is where the final level takes place. So let's really get into... This is it, the main point of the video. We are finally here. We've talked about expected gameplay from a Hitman level, the times that freedom has been taken away from the player in service of story, the ways in which Hitman 3 puts more of a focus on story and subverting some of those expectations, and then what the story of this trilogy has actually been so far. With all this out of the way, we finally built up the context to talk about Untouchable. As was already mentioned, most of the levels of Hitman 3 have a starting location that acts as a prologue. The prologue for Untouchable plays like an interactive cutscene. The player gets to choose how they move or where they look, but not much beyond that. The prologue sets up the level by putting us in Agent 47's mind. He's working through Diana's betrayal and how he feels like nothing more than a tool for murder.
You're exactly the tool they bred you to be.
These words are explicitly said in Diana's voice, and right after that we're seeing all the targets we've taken out through the entire trilogy, all the ways he's been used as this kind of tool. But, still in his mind, 47 has a vision of Lucas Gray who helps him understand. These are nothing more than 47's worst fears, not how Diana really feels. Gray is a manifestation of 47's subconscious, telling him that he trusts Diana too much. This couldn't possibly be true, so there must be something more going on. So with this, 47 comes to the conclusion that she set him up for one final mission. By appearing to betray him, Diana has actually set 47 up with an opportunity to take out Arthur Edwards and destroy Providence once and for all. In the only moment that has any degree of player agency within this prologue, a prompt pops up that says "Trigger Car Explosive." This moment from the past is where Agent 47 killed Diana's parents, the moment that led to her eventually joining the ICA and becoming his handler and taught her that no one is untouchable. So this is how the level begins, with the realization that Diana is acting as our handler for one last mission. And with that one button prompt, the player's now the one who taught Diana the lesson that no one is untouchable, and now it's our job to teach Arthur Edwards the same lesson. While most of the levels in Hitman 3 bend what it means to be a Hitman level, this one feels like a full subversion, at least on the surface. While there is a small degree of choice that I will get into in a moment, this level isn't really about player freedom. It's about a very linear track that Agent 47 must embark down. There's a moment from that Polygon article I brought up earlier that's worth mentioning here.
While this kind of experience is unprecedented in the trilogy, IO designed the train level to serve a specific storytelling goal. The purpose of this last mission was to have a narratively driven set piece that is setting up closure for the trilogy, said Engstrom. He added that a train was a, quote, perfect metaphor for what 47 has spent his life doing, following a path determined by others. Finishing the job and stepping off the train is similarly symbolic for 47's story, according to Engstrom, a representation of the contract killer using his newfound free will to leave his past behind.
So this is how we ended up with Carpathian Mountains being about working our way up a train. It's meant as a point where the storytelling, both in a literal and a figurative sense, come together to match the gameplay that the player is experiencing. If you've heard of ludonarrative dissonance, this is the opposite of that. This is like a ludonarrative harmony. But even with the linear makeup of this level, there is a small degree of freedom. It's not as much as other levels, but there is something there. First, there's choice in how you play the level. Sure, you're just walking up one train car to the next, but you're given all your usual methods to do it. You could be silently taking disguises as you slowly creep closer to Edwards, or you could be going more of a running gun approach, killing everybody between you and your target. Or you could treat each one of the train cars like its own little mini puzzle, paying attention to the walk cycles of all the NPCs so you know when you could move, or which windows you could open, or where the ice is too thick on the roof to be able to move around. All these ways that you could get around completely undetected. And really, these three methods are essentially how you take on any level at all in a Hitman game. It's just they're compressed into a single line rather than a big sprawling map. This is basically what every target is about. You see where they are in the distance using your instinct, and you make your way to them. Whether it's using the disguise system, or you're just shooting everybody in your way, or you're slowly trying to do a suit-only silent assassin run, being as sneaky as possible. And while we're looking at the level and how we move across it, let's talk about that title, Untouchable. The idea here is that no one is so powerful as to be completely untouchable. There's always a chance they could be targeted in some way. But especially if your playstyle is one of the two extremes of suit-only silent assassin or killing everyone you see, you feel untouchable, right? You're slowly working your way up this train, and there's nothing that can stop you. Sure, you might be reloading a couple times if things go bad, but in the end, you made it through all of this. Agent 47 in this moment doesn't feel human. He feels like an unstoppable force coming for Edwards, and nothing is enough to get in his way. And sticking with theme just a little bit longer, remember that clip that I thought was important enough to share a quote from back when I was giving the story?
Tell me, what did it feel like, taking lives?
Random. Disordered.
The clip that was so important that they decided to show you it again in the Chongqing level.
Tell me, what did it feel like, taking lives?
Random. Disordered.
This is the book ending of the entire trilogy. And how kind of perfect is that? Because it's Agent 47 when he has no idea who he is or what he's doing. He just knows he is designed to kill. And now it's him at the end of the trilogy, where not only does he know who he is, but there is no randomness. There is no disorder. There's no sandbox to play in to figure out how he's going to get this kill done. No. It's a level that's nothing but order, nothing random about it. Now he's just got to make his way to the end of this straight line and get this last kill. And then there's a matter of how you actually kill Arthur Edwards. Of course, once again, there aren't nearly as many options as there are in other levels, but there is a small degree of choice here. You could kill him by any regular means. You could just come in there with a pistol and shoot him down. It's the most human and honestly boring way you could kill somebody in the Hitman series. But how perfect is that? When he's put himself up on this pedestal, believing himself to be above it all and impossible to kill, and now you're taking him out like it's nothing. Another option is to inject him with the same memory erasing serum that was used on Agent 47 in the past. You could completely wipe Edward's identity from him, leaving him alive, sure, but with what? He has nothing at this point. Or there's a bit of an Easter egg ending, where if you pick up the serum and wait for, I think it's 47 seconds, you get a prompt to inject yourself with it. At this point, you're just starting the cycle of 47 as a tool for assassination all over again, kind of erasing the past 3 games and all of his development. And honestly, given how I've seen some people talk about this level, I think this is kind of the ending they would hope for. To just go on doing the same things again and again, with 47 never getting any development or getting his own sense of personal agency. There's not a whole lot else to say here, because in the end it is really just a small linear level. But it's the simplicity in the context of everything that came before it that makes it so interesting to talk about as it closes off this trilogy of games. I don't think I'm generalizing too much to say that one of the most loved parts of the World of Assassination trilogy is the way that you could drop into just about any level and have a lot of fun just messing around and figuring out everything there is to find. And yeah, if we judge every level from this perspective, Untouchable's pretty awful. It doesn't live up to this expectation whatsoever. But this isn't just any level, it's the final level of 3 games. And just like the series prologue, a short and simple tutorial, a coalescence of story and gameplay, the ending behaves the same way. Anyone who doesn't like this level because it doesn't function like the others, I'm not going to change your mind, nor would I really try to. You could like or not like whatever you want. But with the idea in mind that IO Interactive knew people might not like this level, I think it's incredibly interesting to see why they did it anyway. You don't just make a choice to make something people won't like. There's a reason behind it. It's because it's doing something that you wouldn't get otherwise. And I think it is doing a lot of cool stuff, as I've been trying to talk about here. Untouchable is a very fun level. It's not of the same caliber as the others, sure, but I think it's a fantastic ending to the trilogy. And while I spent a lot of this video setting up the context rather than actually talking about the level itself, I hope it gave some appreciation for what's going on here, even if it's not one of your favorite levels. Because you know what? Different can be pretty cool. That's it, first deep dive video of 2022 and first deep dive into any part of a video game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making it. This was my Agent 47 outfit. I don't know how obvious that was. I didn't want to go full suit. I thought just black hoodie over white t-shirt was close enough. I probably should have a red tie on, but you know what? This is something. Definitely let me know in the comments below what you thought of this, what your favorite level is, regardless. If it's not Untouchable, what else is there? Is it Miami or Sapienza? Because we all know those are fantastic and a lot of people love them. Definitely let me know in the comments below. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you guys next time. Goodbye, everybody.